And we're live. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. So, so today, oh dear, I've lost it again. I've just lost my page. So today I wanted to actually talk about, I'm sorry, here we go. I wanted to talk about sayings that we have. We've got sayings. I apologize. I've just literally lost my page. I had it and I wanted to have it in order. Meanwhile, I'll tell you that we're missing Dan Burke for the moment. He's still in hospital. Well, he was in hospital. He was, excuse me, in intensive care for a while. He had a very serious infection, or he still has a very serious infection on his liver, and he's had to have it drained, and he's been very sick for some time. He's going to take quite a while to recover, but we're all wishing him well and praying for his speedy recovery. So today's December 3. The slaughterhouse of failure is not in my destiny. I will persist until I succeed. So today I just want to talk about leadership, teams, and sayings that we hear, but we don't really listen to. We often don't listen to. So I've just at random picked out some sayings that I think are interesting and that are important. So, working hard for something you don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. So we've actually got to find something in our business that fuels and motivates us and turns that into a passion. For me, in the business that we're in, the thing that I most love is overcoming objections. I love it when people have all kind of objections and roadblocks, and they tell me that this is not something for them and this is something difficult, because I can see what they can't see. I sometimes make the example that when you've got kids at school and you've got your kids there in a class of gymnastics or music or whatever, you think your kid is good until you see the others, and then you say, my gosh, this little kid's really got talent. But sometimes that not necessarily ours, but they don't see the talent they have. They don't see the brilliance that they have. And sometimes in the business that we're in, we can see something for other people that they can't see in themselves. And that's when we get all these objections and so on. So for me, I've turned that into my passion. I've turned those objections, those cobwebs that the people have, into my passion. So, it becomes a fun thing. Working for me is fun. It's not even work. A team is not a group that works together. Rather, it's a group that trust each other. Sometime in the past, John Whitaker had a story about being on the plane, and they were all going to jump. The trainees were jumping out of the plane in their parachutes, and one of the trainees came to him and said, "Colonel, would you please check my parachute?" And in his words, he said, "Son, it's already been checked and rechecked." And the trainee said, "Yes, sir, but I want it to be checked by you." That is where you have total faith in your leader, because the guy's going to jump out of the plane. He wants to know for sure that his parachute is really, really going to work. And he needs to have somebody that he trusts and respects that can verify that. And I think that's real leadership, when somebody comes to you and he's really talking about, he thinks he's going to die, but he comes to you for help. So vision is a destination. Strategy is a route. Well, the thing is, we've never got to lose sight of that destination. It's like a game of chess. you know, you make your moves and then somebody makes another move, but you've got to tweet and twist and you've got to tweak your strategy, but avoid distractions, but continually keep focus on that destination, because the strategy is the route. The vision is just the destinations we want to get to. You know, I talked about my little Vachambiki thorn bush. It's the distractions. It's the things that it's a bush that we have in South Africa that it's full of thorns. And when you walk, it hooks into your clothes and you kind of stop and you have to unhook yourself from all these thorns. And this is how life is too. So we get really distracted and we mustn't do that. We must just make sure we keep focused on that destination. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. What you do simply proves what you believe. So in Shark Tank, for example, you know, they always say, well, what made you do this? How did you get to this conclusion? Because that's what will sell, is how did you do this? Why did you do this? We've always heard sometimes people say, I want what you have. How did you do this? How can I do this? So, you know, people, they buy what you do. And I think it's important to be able to have that focus, because that's what will help people to follow us. You know, don't quit trying to build what you can see, even if others can't see it. In other words, what you can see. Walt Disney had a dream. And when he died, some people around him were after he had died, they were in Orlando and they were saying, my gosh, look at this. I wish Walt Disney had seen what his dream has turned into. Well, actually, somebody said to him, no, Walt Disney saw this long before anybody else. So what was built of Disney World, of Walt Disney's dream, was something he could see that the others couldn't see. And that's in our business, in our lives as well. We've got to see something, or we should see something, and that we should know what we see. And even if others can't see it, we shouldn't distract our belief from that. If it's a belief, if it's a dream, and it's any way attainable, even if it's not attainable, go for the dream, because you should get somewhere close to it if you really persist. The value of a true leader is measured not by the work, not the work they do, but how they inspire others to work. So this is something interesting too. And I'm going to be very not politically correct. And I'm going to say something now. So I'm Italian origin, so I can speak with authority on this. I'm allowed to say that because I'm Italian. So when we look at the Italians compared to, say, the Germans or the British or the Americans and so on, generally speaking, and I'm saying this because of South America, this is an example which I've been doing in this last couple of weeks. You know, the Italians are kind of, yeah, more or less on time. They do something more or less right. They're much more creative and less exacting than, say, the Germans or, you know, the Anglo-Saxons. In South America, when we have our meetings, our meetings and so on, you know, we say meeting's going to start at 9. And, you know, at the beginning, people would start floating in at about 10 after 9, 15 after 9, 30, half an hour late. And there it was how you inspire others to be punctual in that case, or how you inspire others to do work. So at a certain time, I just closed the door and I said, no one's coming in. And there was one time I was the only one in the room, but I closed and the others were waiting outside. And I said, you were too late, you missed it. So in this last few weeks, the events we've had, people are now actually ahead of time. They're actually getting into the meetings like 10 minutes ahead of time, because they know that I'm going to close them out. The other thing is, we don't hire people for skills. We hire them for attitude. Attitude is something you cannot buy. Skills you can teach, but attitudes Attitude you cannot buy. You cannot teach an attitude. And, you know, sometimes it's good for if someone has had failure, that's actually can be a good thing. We always, you know, sometimes we say, fail your way to the top. Well, failure is actually, or failure, or somebody who's had a problem, can make that attitude stronger, and we can teach the skills. So attitude is something that is important, very important. It's my whole belief on life and about things is attitude. How do we feel about things? So, you know, the attitude that we have can determine our success. The skills are one thing, but if we don't then communicate them properly, and that also has to do with an attitude. There's another one that says, you know, let us all be the leaders we wish we had. You know, I wish I had known what I know now when I was 20. How many times have we said that? Have we heard that? You know, this is something that is huge. Let us be the leaders we wish we had. So we unfortunately don't actually stop to analyze that saying. And, you know, we say, I wish I'd known what I know now when I was 20. Well, the way to do that is, you know, we've got to look at our feedback. We've got to be big enough to get comments from what we're, you know, if we've made a presentation like I'm doing now, get feedback. What did I do well? How can I improve? Was I too repetitive? Was I too gesticulating? You know, all of these things. So these are things that make us better and better as we go along. And the more we do things, the better we get at them. And so it's important that we really are not afraid to make mistakes. We're not afraid to read, to ask opinions, to constantly improve. Customers will never love the company until the employees love it first. This is absolutely true. You know, a customer, a client, a patient, or whoever, you know, will never have that appreciation or that love or whatever for what we have to offer unless we impart that love first. We've got to absolutely be passionate and love what we have. And that is easier to be able to help other people feel the same thing. So here's a very important one. Trust has two dimensions, competence and integrity. Mistakes of competence can be forgiven, but a breach of integrity, that's irreparable. This thing about, you know, integrity is the most important thing we have. We have to walk the talk. We have to have integrity. We have to be able to walk with our head high. Competence, so we make a mistake, we can make, obviously we often make mistakes. That can be forgiven, but integrity, no. That is one of our fundamental underlying key things that we've got to have at all time, integrity. You know, I've many times sacrificed certain things because there was a conflict of interest and I chose not to do it. And I think its integrity is important. Managers watch over our numbers and results. Leaders watch over us. You know, managers look at numbers and they shout and scream, wow, the numbers are not right. But a leader will actually work with the people. And this is what our business is about. It's working with the people. And you know, the human factor is the biggest thing we've got. And that's what has to be motivated. And you have to find the ways to motivate the people that are with us. Don't limit your challenges, challenge your limits. You know, we often say we've got, I don't think I can do this. Well, why not? Challenge your limits. You absolutely can. there is nothing to stop you. The only thing that stops us is fear. It's false evidence appearing real. It's in our mind. It's not real. The challenges we have, you know, I just now, this week, completed 500 lessons of Pilates, 500. And each one's close to an hour. And I didn't even notice it. But when I started doing it, I couldn't do half the things that I can do now. And I didn't think I could do them. Those are physical challenges at my age. So the mental challenges at any age can be overcome. Physical challenges get a bit bigger after a while, but we still have to challenge those limits. Can do it. There's another one here. Once you see results, it becomes an addiction. So there's the society of success and the society of woe is me. Success can become an addiction because you start getting into the groove of things and things start to go well. And that's where you start getting the groups of people who are always successful and they kind of birds of a feather flock together. You know, you have success. It's kind of an addictive thing. I love it. Wow, my gosh, I just had a success in doing something. And then, you know, you look for the next one. And your probabilities will be better if you have that attitude of success. Whereas people who are in the woe is me society continue to wallow in the woe is me society because that also becomes addictive. Oh, I failed at that. Oh, I couldn't do this. Oh my gosh, it was too difficult. And they wallow in that self-pity society, which is kind of sad. So it's up to us to be able to make that distinction. Like I say, a lot of the things we see and we hear, but we don't actually listen. We don't actually analyze. We don't actually go into. You know, when I was in the tobacco business, they used to tell me, don't look at something, look into it. The size of the challenge is directly proportional to the emotion with which we view it. And, you know, most of the things we do in life have an emotional aspect to it. And we think something is going to be a huge problem. Well, it probably will. Or we think, oh, I can do that. You probably can. You know, we always say, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. But there's an emotional aspect to that too. The emotional aspect is part of that the underlying thing that is what will drive us, either with strength or with moderation. Leadership is communication. You know, I've watched many leaders that are presidents of companies, corporations, even countries, brilliant people. And some of them couldn't really communicate very well. And some of them who were less capable, but were better communicators, had more success. So communication is very important. And it's important to be able to speak from the heart, as well as the technical part that anybody wants to communicate. So I just wanted to say that, you know, with Dan Burke not being here this week and last week and probably another couple of weeks, it becomes important for all of us to look at our groups of people, our leaders, our teams, and be ready to stand in and fill in for them with how best we can. And this becomes important because, you know, the person is not there. It gives us a huge responsibility because now it's the people that Dan in this case, or that our teams have attracted to the business. So our responsibility is doubled. If I attract somebody to the business and I fail, it's my responsibility. That's my problem. But if we've got some people in our teams who've attracted people to the business, then we've got a responsibility because we don't want to let our team members down. If I let myself down, okay, I let myself down. But so this now is a moment in time when we're, as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking now at, for example, the other leaders in the group that we have. And together, like for example, Mike Cook, to step up and say, Mike, you know, this is somebody in our group, in your downline, in your group. So suddenly we step up and we take over, and it's okay. And you know, the mission now is to make it grow, even though he's not physically present at this time. So anyway, I just wanted to mention a couple of these sayings and things because, you know, they become, some of them are really, really profound. And I think it's important that we can analyze those and come to some conclusion and act on them. So anyway, we've got a couple of minutes left. If anybody wants to say anything, I'd be happy to, you know, open up and let everybody just, if you want to make any comments or say anything, please be free.
Pardon me, I'm sorry, Lawrence.
Yeah.
I cannot type this fast. A lot of great stuff in there, really a lot of great stuff. And I think the best thing you said at the end was, you know, take a few minutes and really analyze these things we've talked about today and then act upon them. It's that action, you know, that's going to make the big difference. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really good stuff, Lawrence. As always, I just want to point out, I'm driving right now, and the generalization and the stereotype, you may be Italian, of Italian heritage, I'm of Irish heritage, but, you know, stuff like that, I just don't, you know, I kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I'm driving, I was pouring my beer into my Lucky Charms and almost had an accident. No, you made some really good points. You also brought up Walt Disney, and I heard a story once about him being an entrepreneur, and he was in the war, and at the end of the war, he had found a helmet on the ground that had a bullet hole in it, and he thought, wow, that's a great souvenir. But being an entrepreneur, he said, I bet I could get some money for that, and sure enough, he sold it, and then he came up with the idea. He went around and rounded up all the helmets and started shooting holes in them and selling them. So he was a born entrepreneur.
That's great.
Yeah. You know, we often take notes and we listen and we hear things and we think, wow, that's interesting. And then we forget to really delve into that. And I think it's important that we dissect and we analyze certain sayings, certain information, and whatever we hear and we look at, you know, dissect it, expand it, see, because there's always more and more that comes into it.
Lawrence, I just want to thank you for not kicking me out of your house when I was recruiting you. You know, when I was, what was like 28 back then or something like that, and maybe 27, 28, filled with enthusiasm and passion. And thanks for seeing that passion and not the amateur skill set that I had at the time.
At that time, I didn't differentiate the amateur skill set. I just saw the bigger picture, and I overlooked the fact that you were at that time so pushy. And I thought, one more minute, man, one more minute. But I'm glad that it turned out. Any other comment anybody wants to make, or anything anybody wants to say? So just as an example, Steve Moore took a couple of weeks off, and on the Monday night meetings he had, you know, he was able to go and relax and not even think about it, because Mike Cook and myself took over his talk on Monday night, and it went perfectly smooth. I don't think there were any hiccups with that. And it's being able to have a team that you can rely on, that you can trust, that you can literally rely on. I mean, it's important. That's what a team is about, especially soldiers. I mean, think about that. And in our case, we're soldiers in business, and we've got to be able to be there for our team. not let them down, to be able to really help them.
Yeah, I think also it's showing up when you don't want to, right?
Yeah.
That skill set of and that mindset of showing up when you don't want to. And I think that's one of the hardest things in this business is finding people that are disciplined, that show up. Because I can take anyone that's disciplined, you know, that's got desire, they're willing to work, they're coachable, and we can take them to the top of the company. I don't know how long it will take. I don't know when it will spike, but I know that as they're building that root system, that foundation of their education, their knowledge, their skill set, their network, all those things, at some point they start to gel and they start to get some traction. And it doesn't happen linearly. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to come into a business and then say, wow, I did all this work and I got paid so little. Wow, I did all this work and I got paid so little. And then eventually you get to a point where you say, wow, I got paid that much for how much I worked. You know, wow, I got paid on, I was just talking to Liz and she says, I just made commission on something I didn't sell. Like, you know, and it was this aha moment for her.
Yeah.
And you put enough of those moments together and you say, you start to see that what this can create, like what you said, Lawrence, is to see it before it's built, right? And all of you are learning how to see something that you haven't built before. You know, many of you are learning how to see something that is hard to see. And every step you take, every call you're on, every book you read, every person you talk to, you start to see it a little bit clearer. And sometimes it gets a little bit foggy, you know, it doesn't get clearer like consistently. Sometimes it gets clear, then all of a sudden you're like, what just happened? I just lost my mojo here. And then you get back to the basics, right, of talking to people, doing your 3-way calls, listening, learning, reading, and then you have another breakthrough and another breakthrough and another breakthrough, and all of a sudden you start to say, okay, I can do this. This will happen. And you know, the main difference between new people and people that have been around for a while is that, you know, Lawrence and I and Scott and many of the other leaders are operating based on a belief system from our experience now. And many of you are operating based on faith, right? And Lawrence, you said it really well, where, you know, you see something in someone that they don't see in themselves at first, right? Because we've seen so many people that have that tenacity, have that background. It really doesn't matter where you come from. We know that if people just don't quit and they keep moving forward and they keep learning and they keep showing up and they keep doing things and they keep making mistakes and not be afraid to make mistakes, that through that consistent effort, they're going to be successful. And then they'll start to see the patterns in the success, and then you'll start to get more efficient at it. So you've got to get through that. And in the beginning, you've just got to have that faith that if hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people within Nu Skin have achieved what you want to achieve, then there's no reason why you can't.
You know, that's what we always say, fail your way to the top. What does that mean? It means that if you fail, you got to learn from that. You got to dissect it. What did I do wrong? Why did I fail? Was it my fault? How did I do? What can I do better? That's what I'm saying. These little sayings like fail your way to the top. Okay, big deal. What does it mean? And unless we really analyze it and we work on it, then we won't improve. And if we have the right attitude, then those failures can become our strengths, because we've learned something from it and it becomes our strength. So, okay, so it's 10:01. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Steve, for your input. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody, for being on the call. I appreciate your time. Thank you. It's nice of you to be here. I hope there was some little things in there that may have been of use.
Always great. Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings to you.